Hello all. Welcome to a webinar. We are excited to present to you how you can compliantly store, seal, and secure your data using Signicat's quite new. It's been operational for a while, but it was launched mid this year, the Digital Evidence Management Service. Next, Martin. I'm Jon Ølnes, Tribe Lead, Signing and Trust Services in Signicat, and I'll be your host today. But the presentation will mainly be done by our product owner for the DEM service, Martin Theodorsen. So that's the two of us. I lost the slide right now, but you can do the next one. What's the basis here? Signicat has for quite a lot of years run a service called qualified timestamping. So what does qualified timestamping do? Well, it proves that an object existed at a specific point in time. We use this ourselves. We use it for all signature packaging we do, but it's a generic service. We can do more based on timestamping service. So one thing we can do is essentially you can take any object, you add a timestamp, and we seal it using a certificate. Signicat attests to it, and this means we got an evidence that this object existed at a specific time. Timestamping, you can buy it as a standalone service if you want, and it's also like qualified timestamp. It's the highest level you can have according to European regulation. So if you do the next one, next slide. Yep, just click. The common EU law on identity and trust services covering signing and such stuff states explicitly that a qualified electronic timestamp shall enjoy the presumption of accuracy of the data and the time it indicates and the integrity of the data to which the data and time are bound. So this means that if you are in the extreme case in court, or if you just want to prove something to your supervisory authority or some other authority, and you bring on something that's protected by a qualified timestamp, then as a starting point, this authority shall assume that this is correct. So an evidence by qualified electronic timestamp as used by digital evidence management has a particularly strong legal standing. And of course, to reach this level, we must adhere to strict compliance and security to really be able to provide such a service. It's not like something everyone can provide, a qualified trust service. It's really strict regulations, auditing, supervision, and other stuff involved in providing that service. But this is the basis for the service we made for digital evidences. So I suppose you can click on the next one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So before we're looking into what digital evidence management is as a product, I want to ask you, can your company honestly say yes to all of these statements? We have a complete and updated database of all our GDP consents. We would pass a data audit from a government agency with these. We can provide our customers with fast and accurate proof of their actions or transactions when having disputes. We are storing all sensitive data in a safe and a secure way. And if you can't say yes to all of these, you should pay close attention to what I'm telling you about digital evidence and how that product is and how it can help you. If you said yes, sorry?
Yeah, I think GDPR case is an interesting one because we all do collect GDPR consents, right, from customers. And that's fair enough. We got the answer. But how do you afterwards produce a proof that this person actually consented when that is disputed? When someone asks you, I'm did I provide you a GDPR consent? Yes, you did. You can fetch it. You can prove that that was the case, that this event of consenting to the GDPR conditions really happened.
And we never keep sensitive data logged and required by law. So this is also a super important question. So let's jump to the slide where we can see digital evidence management. So digital evidence management is an audit service offering from Signicat. We help provide evidence of digital transactions, consent, payments, or events that have occurred and who was involved. So please let Signicat allow Signicat to take away the burden of storing, validating, and protecting the data and the messages. Handle audits and inspections in a fast and secure manner to make sure disputes are reacted on, complaints are resolved, claims are handled, and incidents are reported. And save money and time. We help remove time-consuming and costly manual work to find the disputed items and prove the content. So here is one of the nice benefits of them. So if you have, suddenly you have to have an audit, and you need to find the data that you need to prove that you have the right requirements and saved at the same place. But how do you do it? Sometimes you can have data stored in different computers, you can have it in different systems. So then it's super manual work and time consuming to find the right data. And that is what we want to have with them. You can have everything saved at one place. And it is an independent service that can be used in any country and any market. So you just need to have any Signicat products to use them. You can just have it as a part of your already existed system. So that is super, super nice. And DEM is a versatile service. So DEM can be used for the full audit of identity proofing, authentication, and Signicat signing process, covering the whole identity customer journey. And it complies with the PSD2 linking requirements.
I think this is an important issue. I mean, Signicat uses it ourselves. We use them to protect. We have a saying in Signicat: it's not eat your own dog food, it's drink your own champagne, which we do to the extent needed. And this is one glass of champagne that we drink for our own audit logging. Because that's one purpose, and it's versatile. It's generic, right? You can build anything on top of on them. And right now we're mainly offering as a basis service, meaning you, their customer, can use it for your own applications. But we also have ideas on value-add services that we as Signicat can provide to you on top of them. We'll get back to some of that later, but that's also. If you see the need for, this is a good idea, and I want a value-add service on top of it, please provide us the ID. Maybe it's something we could be interested in making.
Yeah. So how does DEM work? So Signicat offers high volume and long-time storage of the data in a secure manner. So the customers decide which data to store and for how long. So for that, we have something that's called time to live, the TTL. So you as a customer can decide, yes, I want to store this data for 5 years. So then you can just add that time in them. But if you suddenly see, I only need this data for 2 years, then you can also go in and change that date. So it will be deleted after 2 years. And that is something that is really nice to have that option. And security. So Signicat acts as a data processor. The customer owns and controls the data and can add, retrieve, and delete the data. And search. We provide tools for powerful and efficiency search in real time. You can search on system-provided data as well as user-provided data. And for that, we have something that's called custom metadata and system metadata. So this is also one of the great benefits of them. You can add the metadata that you want to search for the data that you stored in them. So if you have some data that you want to find, then you don't need to have like a specific ID to find just a document. with the system metadata, you can add different search options. So you can add, so you can, I will also go in to show an example, but this is the core benefits of them. And the sealing. So we seal and secure the critical data elements by adding a qualified timestamp over the messages or the consent and the subject. Elements are validated upon retrieval. And we have also some different levels of audit levels. So you can choose between simple, advanced, and qualified. We always prefer to use the qualified, but we know that it could be different use cases where you want to maybe use simple or advanced. That's the case. Do you want to add something, John?
Yeah, the qualified timestamp applies to the highest level, that one we mentioned, and the other uses simpler timestamping. So it doesn't provide, they don't provide you the same evidence level, but maybe you don't need it. Maybe you use it for internal purposes and not something that you want to show to your auditor, and then you can do with something simpler. But on the other hand, even the we'll not talk about pricing, but it's not expensive, not even at the qualified level. So as you say, that's what we recommend.
Yeah. So what is stored? We can start on the right side. So in them, the buildup is around a record. So we have a record with data, and we will always have some system metadata with the record. And the custom metadata, as I mentioned earlier, there's where you can add specific values so you can search for. And in the custom core data, there is where the data that you want to store is added, and it's sealed and stored. And in there, it could be auth response, it could be constant messages, credit card information, payment information, or other information or other data that you want to store, that you want to keep. And the system metadata, as I said, it's stored by the data, and it could be type of event. So if you want to say that this record is a GDPR record, you can add that to the type. Or it could be a transaction, or it could be other, or it could be know your customer, KC, and it's up to you. And you always have the time from a timestamp. You always have the time to live, and you always have a reference. And yeah, the custom metadata defined by user for the powerful searching. So there you can add name, last name, national ID, country, city, amount, from bank account to bank account, and more. So it just depends of what you want to search. So it could be more specific to what you actually need when you're searching for the data.
Yeah. So the core is right. This is the system metadata is what you always will have. And the custom is what suits your application. So that's we'll give you a few examples later on. The time I think the time to live, that's a very important one, because that's what we use to guarantee that stuff is deleted when it shall be deleted. So you have this record, right? And you need to keep it for, let's say, 4 years. Maybe it's a legislative, regulatory requirement to do so. So you set the time to live to 4 years after you store the evidence away. And then it will disappear after 4 years, and we guarantee that. That's a quite neat feature.
Yeah. So yes, and we also include the timestamp object and the secure timestamp object. Yeah, the qualified timestamp. Yeah.
Maybe it's worth mentioning also there is some restriction on the size of the core data, but it's quite big, right? So most such transactional information you can store, but if you have bigger objects, then you need to do something on using a different store for the object itself. But that's also something we'll touch upon in an example a bit later.
Yeah.
But mostly you will use just the storage attached to them, and the transactional data will also be stored and protected there.
So over to the DEM use cases. So DEM can be used for audit consent, audit information right, audit the right to be forgotten. It can be used for payment transactions when did a payment occur, what payment channel was used, was it online banking, was it account to account, did the payment trigger SCA? And we also can use them for know your customer and anti-money laundering. Retrieve events related to KYC and AML. And we also have it connected to the fraud detection and prevention. So you could trace and find evidence of fraud attempts and proactively prevent them from happening. So when you have different flows, you can, especially connected to the fraud, if you see something maybe a customer for insurance, they have changed their information, then you can store that change in them. Or if you can see something, a high amount of cash that is switching from different accounts, then you can also store that data that has changed into them. So then you can later on have the customer metadata. We want to search for higher amounts in our system. And then you can just find that, and you can also have the name, and you can have the last name. So you can specifically find the high amount connected to different customers that you can see as some that if you think maybe this could be fraud or anything like that. So
yeah,
you want to
Yep. And for the time being, this works with your service, their customer. So for the GDPR case, for example, you need to run the user interface for showing what the user shall consent to and obtain the consent, and then you call the DEM API with all the evidences, and we store that away for you. That's how it works today. And then we consider, of course, as Signicat, can we do value-add stuff on top of what we have in them? For example, we could provide you a service where you redirect the user and the consent document. We use sort of a generic GDPR consent service. We took away the evidence and we give you back the result. This is something, such things we can do if there's customers' interest out there. So this is feedback we would like to have concerning what we could provide you as value-added services based on them and other stuff. We have some, again, examples to get going. The same for payment. It's your payment service. You send us the information you collect, and we protect it by them around it. Okay, we see AML is quite interesting because the European Banking Authority recently published guidelines on remote onboarding. And those guidelines explicitly say that when you collect the proof of the KYC process, you must timestamp and store them away for 8 years. Hey, that's them, right? So it's perfect. It's a perfect combination of to fulfill a perfect service to fulfill that. That's, by the way, our next webinar, but we'll get back to that information. So it's a combination of what you do yourself and what we currently provide, and we have the option of providing more, and we are listening to customers and what you believe is needed there.
Yeah. So the possibilities is so many. So it depends on your system, and then you can find the need for them. So yeah, it's super helpful. And the next one will be an example of how the flow of digital evidence management could be. So you can have the company X. You will of course have an authentication method from Signicat. So it could be NBID mobile or SBID. And you will get the response from the user that have logged in to your system. And then the user have accepted the consent. You will have the data from the authentication. You will have the OK from the consent message, and you will store this in them. So then you can prove that this customer have accepted this message by clicking on the message. And of course, they will seal it, so it will be as evidence. But this is one core or basic flow of how you can use them. So over to the next one, John will show how it will be with archive with them.
Yeah, this is something we will build actually. It looks a little bit complicated, maybe the figure, but if you see on the left-hand side, we have a Signicat customer, and we have also Signicat's own services. And a document that needs archival is created. So this can be, typically it will be a document that's signed in Signicat sign services, but it can also be a document that the Signicat customer has and needs to store away. And this is an idea for a remote archive. It's not an archive where you will use the documents on a daily basis. It's a archive where you will store documents. You will rarely need them, but sometimes you will need them. And if you need them, you will really need also a strong evidence of what has happened of the archive process and that this has been stored, securely stored away, and the timing of everything. So the document goes into the archive service, and these can be big, right? So they can't be stored directly in them. So we need a document store, and then we use them. And what we do in them, in this case, is we use the system metadata, of course, but what in Martin's previous explanation was called custom metadata, in this case is archive metadata. So this is a selection of standard archive metadata that we will use for indexing document and to search and retrieve. Payload is evidence of the archival and reference to the document, and we timestamp this and we store the document away, and that's it. It's archived. And we got a strong evidence on when and how this was done. Then we got the API again, and we will have a user interface where a user could log in and search and retrieve documents based on the metadata. And when something is retrieved, you can, from the DEM evidence, prove exactly what was archived at what time. So it's a simple archive service for a remote archive. This is something we plan to build and launch sometime next year. So yeah, it's an example of how we can build this on top. But of course, you can also build your own archive service on top of it, using only the DEM API for the metadata and build it yourself. So that's the flexibility we have.
Yeah. So over to the next one. I have an example also in the combination with the Signicat product, Know Your Customer, or AML, where you can see that you need for identity proofing. You can also have it for registered checks for a company, or it could be for a person. So you can see the flow that the customer is logging in with or authenticate themselves with an AID. And you also will have the check from the AML or KUC. You will get the response data. You will parse the data we will get the response data, and then you will seal the data and you will send it to them. And you will have the store. So you can have the whole flow from checking the customer is authenticating themselves. The checks goes for person or for a company. You will store the data and we send it in them. And then you will have the possibility to find it later, and you will have the proof for the whole flow. So I think I would just jump over to it. So digital evidence management is an API, but we also have a dashboard. We have a front end, but this is just an example of how you can, or how it can be built. So yes, so I talked about the custom metadata. So here you can see that I have the first name, the last name, audit, know your customer, and also the NIN. So this is something that I've decided to add to the data so I can find it. So when I typed in this, you can see that I got some records under that is connected to the values that I've added. So here you can see the different records that is connected to the values. And you can also see that here we have also more options. So I've added, I think this could maybe be something that I needed, but so you have some odd different choices that could be useful later if you need it to add something more. It could be, yes, I want to add maybe country, because I need to have it even more specific to find the data. And we can go into a record. So here you can see that the core data, this is data I want to store. So you can see that Jan Eggum, the first name is Jan and the last name is Eggum. This is the data from he has been logging in with an authentication method. No, sorry, with a check of the AML. So you can see he's logged in. We have his data. You can also see that he has some checks, the PEP check, the Sensen check, and this is the data that we have stored. And connected to this, we have the metadata. Sorry, I can see that the metadata is changed there, but this is the different things that's added so I can find the data that I want to have. And on the right side, I can see the system metadata that's always provided for the customer. And the type is know your customer, the KFC, and the expiry date and the created date and which audit level you used. And you also have the possibility to delete the data. And here is another example from the first flow that I've shown. So the first name is Daga, the last name is Crook, the year is 2020, and I want to find the consent message. So this is the values that I've added to find the right data. And specifically to this data, you can see I have some records that is fulfilling the values. So here you can see this is maybe a better example. So you can see on the left side, you can see the timestamp is valid. You can see the core data from the users. So you can see that you have some IP address. You can see you have the date of birth. You can see you have the phone number verified. You can see the national ID. You can see a phone number. And you can also see that this has the consent text connected to it. So when you added as a custom metadata, you added the consent message, okay. Then you can see, okay, this is a record that contains the consent message. And you can see the metadata there, what I search for. So it's Daga and Crook and the phone number or the year, and the consent message is okay. Something you want to add there, John?
No, I think that's fine. You got an example of a more user-friendly report, so yeah. That's I think that's the only thing I need to add on that one. This is really the comprehensive view of it. Yeah.
And you also have the possibility to download this data as a PDF. So this could be an example of how the PDF will be. You can see the attributes, you can see the core data, what's stored there, you can see the metadata, and you can also see the core data on the right side. You can see that the evidence is validated okay, you can see which type it is. And this is super nice if you have an audit and you need to send or give the data away to somebody else who wants to go through it. So yeah. So yeah.
Very good. We got some questions. There is one question sort of related to archive, but maybe not only. Can the customer store its own consent and transactional data in them, or is this only possible when the customer is using the Signicat service, for example, MitID authentication? But that's not. It's a separate service, right, Martin?
Yeah. So yeah, you can store it as you want.
Yes. So you can use only them. It's a self-standing service, or what you should say. It's something you can use only them from Signicat. You don't have to use any other service from Signicat to use them.
Yeah.
We will share the presentation, or we will actually the whole webinar is recorded and will be made available online. You'd say we mentioned payment. Credit card data could be stored in this one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be a nice way to find the data and to find the data later, and you know that they will be stored correctly.
Yeah, because there's also a question related to sensitivity retention period of fields and annotation of that. But we treat all the information we get as sensitive, as if it is sensitive, and we are the data processor, and we don't, it's stored encrypted, of course. We can't do retention of individual fields. It's only for the complete record, where we set the time to live, and it's deleted when the time to live expires.
Yep.
How do you guarantee that the data is deleted?
So to each record, there is an ID. So you can, as is shown in the dashboard, you can see the different IDs. So when you're trying to find that specifically record connected to the ID and it's not showing up, then you know it's deleted. So it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Who can access the data we store?
So we have some different roles when you're adding them as a product. So you have one admin, and we can give some different rights to the other users. So it would be just the customers who have the access to the data. But within them, within the company or who's buying them, they can also give some different permissions to the other people there.
Good. There's a question: how does this compare to data management solutions that data teams use, as data catalogs, data quality, and lineage tooling or model auditing? But I mean, we're not really working on data quality and those aspects, are we?
No, it's so yeah. We talked about how many different ways you can use them. So that's also one of the nice benefits. It's not so connected to different types of regulations or yeah. It's like doesn't need to be used for the specifically what is called businesses or regulations. It can be used for different things. If I answer that.
And the customer is responsible for the quality of the data that goes in there, and we don't change anything. And how this is, how the metadata is used.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. If I want to integrate to them, how much time will I typically need? What's the complexity of doing that?
Yeah, so the nice benefit of them is it's super easy to set up. So you will log into our dashboard, you will create the API clients, and then it's ready to use. I think you use maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, especially if you use with API clients, but we have some good documentation. So yeah, maximum 1 hour, and then it will be ready to go.
Yeah, because this is provided out of Signicat's new service platform, right?
Yeah.
Digital Trust platform, which gives you much better self-service capabilities and orchestration capabilities and whatnot than we have for the old. It's also a dashboard mentioned, and it's quite interesting. You have features there where you can combine Signicat services into flows, and you should look at Signicat Mint, where them is of course a component that can be used in our no-code approach to set up service flows. So this is quite neat. I like that one.
Yeah.
Elaborate more on the qualified timestamping authority. Yeah, I said it's conceptually a very simple service. You get what's called a hash value, meaning it's a kind of a fingerprint of a data set. And the QTSA signs, meaning in this case corporate signature. It's a certificate identifying Signicat, and that it's a qualified timestamping service, the combination of the hash value and time. So the hash value is unique for the data set, and this shows that this data set existed at this point in time. It's high security, runs in the data center in Norway. It's audited. It uses hardware security modules for the for the signing keys, supervised by National Communications Authority in Norway, and we're up for a new audit recently. And we're upgrading the service actually now to better capacity. Plan next year is likely we will issue maybe 100 million timestamps out of that service. So it's high volume. We use it internally for all the signature packaging. We use it for them, and we also have some customers buying the qualified timestamping directly, for example, for logging purposes, and in some other cases where you need this proof of when something happened. So them is an extension of the qualified timestamping, and then, as we mentioned, we can make extensions to them again. It's we're making in the new digital trust platform, the service, the platform provider. We're making sort of a jigsaw puzzle of components that you can put together. And these are two of them that work together, and they can be used again for further puzzles. So stay tuned on that one. We're actually building lots of new good stuff now coming next year. Any more questions from the audience? Else we finish actually 5 minutes ahead of time, but assume there is no objection to that. No.
Maybe a small reminder of the upcoming webinar.
Yes, absolutely. That's our next one, and it includes also them. So we have an upcoming webinar pretty soon. I need to check the date actually. Stay tuned on that one. It's on this EBA, European Banking Authority guidelines, how to do remote onboarding to financial services compliance with the European Banking Authority guidelines. And it touches two guidelines. One is the one I mentioned on remote onboarding specifically, where you need to timestamp the evidence. Of course, we can use them for that. And that's one of them, but the other one is also the EBA outsourcing guidelines, how financial service provider can indeed safely outsource services to a third-party provider and a cloud service provider in particular. And of course, Signicat complies with those requirements. So we're one of the actors that you as a financial service provider safely can outsource to. And this is stuff we're going to cover in the next webinar.
Sounds good.
Yep. That's it.
Perfect,
I see no further questions, but please get in touch. As we said, the webinar is going to be, the recording of the webinar is going to be published, and get in touch with Signicat if this spurs your interest, and also if you have ideas for use cases and services that Signicat can provide on top of them and what other stuff we're doing, please direct them to us. Thank you, and have a nice day, everyone.